This might be one of the most important scenes in the entire Godfather trilogy, yet there are so many hidden details that most people, no matter how many times they watch, never seem to notice. This meeting has so much significance and symbolism that defines the events of the rest of the trilogy, and to be honest, at first glance, they aren't very obvious. It was the first time we see Michael truly owning his new role, but outside the family. The first time he was truly tested. We start really noticing that menacing look, those eyes full of pain and anger that were now imprinted on his face. All the while still trying to keep it all together. But any remnants of the old Michael died back in Sicily. This was the new Godfather. So this meeting is a pivotal point in the entire trilogy. There is so much significance to what is being said that goes completely over people's heads. But don't worry, this video will give you all its hidden secrets and unearth some of the most valuable gems from the Godfather trilogy that we can learn from and even start using in real life. It's a true Godfather masterclass you need to understand. But I have to warn you, this will change the way you view the Godfather forever and connect the dots you never knew existed. But before we get into the meeting itself, we need you to understand where all the chess pieces were positioned, what both sides went in already knowing. Setting the stage. So, it's 1954. Michael had just come back only a few years earlier. He was being mentored by the Don himself and Tom on how the family business actually works. By now, Michael had pretty much got it under control, and so he was starting to assert his authority in the family. As you might recall, he had a meeting with his inner circle where he unveiled his plans and the new orders everyone was to follow. He was positioning all the pieces just right before he could make his final move. So, now Michael was fairly comfortable in his new position, he began looking to the future. What would it hold for the Corleone family? Michael was ruthlessly ambitious. He had quite a grand vision with what he wanted to achieve. The Corleone family would be rebuilt from the ground up, rebranding it into one of the country's wealthiest families. But looking at where the Corleone family is currently at, the price tag of his ambitions and being known for the olive oil business would not be good enough anymore. Vegas at the time was still in its infancy. The amount of opportunities it had was immense. It had the foundations for something huge. What many don't know is that the Corleone family had been looking into Vegas for quite a while. Don Vito was very interested in the possibilities it held and wanted to be one of the first to enjoy its fruits. During the war, Fredo was sent to the West Coast under the protection of Don Anthony Molinari, a friend and ally of Don Vito. He was sent there not just for his safety. You see, the Corleone family was making quite large investments in the casino business, and so Fredo was sent to start learning the ropes before the family's major move into the market. This was when he was introduced to Moe Greene. Moe had been the pioneer in Vegas, and the families had relied on him to run the show over there. It's important to note that he received quite a lot of financing and investment from the Corleone family to start building Vegas, especially investing in the hotel Greene was running, as a favor, but also to ensure he would keep Fredo safe. Moe Greene was quite the character, and really does deserve an entire video dedicated to him. I know a lot of you mob history fans know that he was based on Bugsy Siegel. It's very true, but the similarities go even deeper than you think. There are some things most people even today, all these years later, have no idea the truth behind. But let us know if that's something you want us to get into. But the majority of the similarity I want you to keep in mind is the fact that the families in the film and real life believed Bugsy, or Greene, were skimming off the top. Anyway, even with that being said, at first it's not clear what Michael was aiming to do by making this accusation. But what's certain is what Moe Greene did next revealed everything Michael needed to know. So, with the scene being set, let's unveil and break down what really happened. The negotiation begins. So the meeting begins. Of course, it's all smiles and handshakes, but it doesn't take long until the entire energy in the room completely shifts. Michael gets straight into business. There are a lot of subtleties, so keep an eye out. Have a look at this.
My credit good enough to buy you out? Casino. The hotel. Corleone family wants to buy you out.
Notice how belittling Michael was towards Moe. He came in straight for his ego. Michael was here to show Greene who really runs the show, making it clear he was not afraid or concerned about the recent events, and it ties in with something Michael actually brings up later on. But let's keep watching.
Corleone family wants to buy me out. No. I buy you out, you don't buy me out.
Your casino loses money. Maybe we can do better.
You think I'm skimming off the top, Mike?
You're unlucky.
Moe is clearly insulted by this, and there is a reason. Michael knew what he was doing, and it's actually quite brilliant. For now, let's continue.
Yeah, let's talk business, Mike. First of all, you're all done. The Coyote family don't even have that kind of muscle anymore. The Godfather is sick, right? You're getting chased out of New York by Barzini and the other families. What do you think is going on here? You think you can come to my hotel and take over? I talked to Barzini. I can make a deal with him and still keep my hotel.
Is that why you slap my brother around in public?
Oh, no, that was nothing, Mike. Now, Moe didn't mean nothing by that. Sure, he flies off the handle once in a while, but Moe and me were good friends, right, Moe, huh?
I got a business to run. I gotta kick asses sometimes to make it run right. We had a little argument, Freddie and I, so I had to straighten him out.
You straightened my brother out.
Players couldn't get a drink at the table. What's wrong with you?
The meeting concludes with a chilling moment where Michael asserts his dominance.
I leave for New York tomorrow. Think about a price.
Do you know who I am? I'm Moe Greene. I made my bones when you were going out with cheerleaders.
Wait a minute, Moe.
With his back turned towards Greene, he doesn't acknowledge his presence after he gives him his final offer.
Don is semi-retired, and Mike is in charge of the family business now. Have anything to say? Say it to Mike.
Mike, you don't come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Moe Greene like that!
Fredo.
There's so much to unpack here. Let's uncover what's really going on. Now, before we get into the chess moves that were being played and how they fit in the much larger picture, there are some key hidden details, or rather details hidden in plain sight, we need to talk about. The thing we really need to zoom in on is the disturbing dynamic between Fredo and Greene. To those of us very observant, these few interactions alone tell a large part of the story. It plays to the much larger problem of Fredo siding against the family. So let's start with Moe Greene's power moves. It would take too long to point out every single one, so I've broken them down into 3 highly effective premeditated moves. They say timing is everything, and in the game of power, being late isn't just a delay, it's a strategy. This is the first power move Moe Greene pulls off in this high-stakes poker game. He premeditates his entrance, aiming to loosen Michael up before they even sit down.
What happened to Moe Greene?
Like he said to Fredo,
He said he had some business. He said give him a call when the party started.
We'll give him a call.
a classic strategy, an old trick that still works wonders on powerful people, even today. By keeping Michael waiting, he flipped the script on one of the most powerful men in the room. Think about the audacity of it. Michael Corleone, heir to one of the most feared crime families in America, sitting there waiting like a junior executive for a meeting to start. When you make someone wait, especially someone who's used to commanding respect, you're asserting dominance without a single word. It's psychological chess. Michael's time is valuable, Moe knows that, but by delaying, he subtly shifts the balance. Suddenly, Michael's on his time. And when Moe finally walks in, he does it with all the flash and swagger of his casinos. He's greeting everyone, cracking jokes, and making it clear he owns the room. It's all very standard Moe. The message is clear. This is my turf, and I'll set the pace. It's a risky move, of course. With the wrong person, it could get you killed. But Moe wasn't playing for respect. He was playing to remind Michael that in Vegas, the house always wins. But where things really get interesting is in the unsettling power dynamic between him and Fredo. Let's rewind for a second. You'll remember we talked about why Fredo was sent to Vegas in the first place. He wasn't just some errand boy, he was sent there to be mentored by Moe Greene under the supposed protection of Don Molinari.
Sending Fredo to Las Vegas under the protection of Don Francesco Valet. I want him to rest.
I'm going to learn the casino business.
Yeah.
Fredo was meant to be a highly valued guest, not some lackey to be disciplined, humiliated, or straightened out like a misbehaving child. But Moe didn't see it that way. Instead, he treated Fredo like a punching bag, a boy who pulls chairs and takes beatings, all while pretending it was just business as usual. I mean, imagine having the older brother of the man you're negotiating with pull your chair for you and so on. After probably being slapped around a little a few hours before, what kind of effect will it have on the overall dynamic? What often goes unnoticed is the psychological warfare embedded in Moe's actions. While Moe didn't feel the need to justify his treatment of Fredo to the Corleone family, he knew they were fully aware of it, and he still did it. That awareness created an undercurrent of tension, a silent weapon that worked in Moe's favor. The implications were clear. If Moe was willing to straighten out Fredo, the son of a powerful Don, without hesitation, it sent a chilling message about his audacity and lack of fear. This dynamic tilted the balance of power during negotiations. It planted a seed of doubt and frustration within the Corleone family, subtly undermining their leverage and tarnishing their position. After all, if Moe could treat Fredo this way, what did it say about his respect, or lack thereof, for the Corleone dynasty? And let's not forget how he casually mentioned,
"The Godfather is sick, right? You're getting chased out of New York by Barzini and the other families."
That
What do
line
you
wasn't
think is
just an
going on?
observation, it was a jab. It added to Moe's confidence and solidified his lack of respect for the Corleone family. This leads us to the next power move Moe Greene pulled. Before stepping into that meeting, Moe already knew where he stood. He wasn't a fool. He had hedged his bets and spread his options like the seasoned gambler he was. Moe saw the cracks in the Corleone Empire long before anyone else dared to admit it. He could feel it in the air, see it in the subtle shifts of power. You see, Moe knew the Corleone family wasn't the unshakable dynasty it used to be. They were teetering on the edge, and he wasn't wrong. The signs were all there. One brick at a time, their empire was crumbling, slow but inevitable. And Moe? He was ready to capitalize on their weakness, playing his hand with the confidence of a man who knew the odds were in his favor. His strategy was crystal clear. Milk the Corleone's hotels and casinos for everything they were worth, while they still had something to give. He was a shark circling the waters, biding his time and extracting every ounce of profit. But that wasn't the end game, it was just the setup. Moe knew the tides were turning, and when Don Barzini inevitably went for the killer blow, Moe would be ready to leverage a better deal. He positioned himself as a valuable ally, an asset too profitable to ignore. For Moe, it wasn't just about their survival, it was about thriving in the chaos, playing both sides until the dust settled and the chips were firmly in his corner. But here's the thing, Fredo, for reasons that still baffle us, remained divided in his loyalty. Despite all the disrespect and manipulation, Fredo continued to align with Moe. This brings us to an important point, the implications and ramifications of Fredo's actions in this meeting. We often focus on the duel between Michael and Moe, yet Fredo plays a crucial role in the negotiation, and his actions influence the fate of everyone involved. Fredo was the official link between the Corleone family and Moe Greene, and that link, it wasn't just weak, it was compromised. So how did Fredo actually side against the family? Unfortunately, Fredo's missteps weren't confined to a single moment. They were part of a pattern, a series of actions that, while subtle, consistently undermined Michael's authority. Many of these slip-ups fly under the radar, even for those paying close attention, but they began long before Moe Greene ever entered the room. It started earlier during Michael's conversation with Johnny Fontaine. Michael was working to convince Fontaine to sign a contract with the family's businesses in Vegas, a move designed to strengthen their foothold. Then Fredo chimed in with what might seem like an innocent question at first glance.
Mike, are you sure about that? Moe loves the business. He never said nothing to me about selling. Now, I'll make
But here's the thing, this harmless remark planted a seed of doubt in Fontaine's mind. It introduced an air of uncertainty where Michael was trying to project unshakable confidence. A small moment, yes, but in the game of power, small cracks can become gaping holes. Now, fast forward to the moment Moe Greene finally walks into the room. This is where Fredo's missteps escalate from subtle to outright damaging. We've already touched on how Fredo acted like Moe's lackey, downplaying his actions and even defending him in front of Michael. But let's zoom in on this moment, where Fredo's behavior didn't just undermine Michael, it actively weakened the family's position.
Moe didn't mean nothing by that. Sure, he flies off the handle once in a while, but Moe and me were good friends, right, Moe, huh?
I got a business to run.
Here's the interesting part. Fredo didn't necessarily make the worst move in that moment. Strange as it sounds, damage control might have been his only play to save face in such an awkward situation. Think about it. Fredo was caught between Michael, whose authority demanded absolute loyalty, and Moe Greene, the most powerful man in Vegas, and by extension his own status in the city. It was an attempt to deflect blame and smooth things over without completely throwing himself under the bus. The real mistake wasn't what Fredo did in that moment. It was allowing the situation to spiral out of control in the first place. By failing to command respect in Vegas and letting Moe treat him like a subordinate rather than the Corleone family's representative, Fredo set himself up for failure long before the meeting even began. The optics were terrible. Siding with Moe, even subtly against Michael's authority, put Fredo in direct opposition to his brother, exacerbating an already tense situation. It may not have been malicious, but in the world of the Corleones, perception is reality, and Fredo's actions painted him as weak, divided, and disloyal. The damage didn't stop there. Now look, Fredo was in a tough position. So what should Fredo have done? Well, there's an Arabian proverb that goes, "If what you have to say is not more beautiful than silence, do not say it." Another illustrates, "Do not let your tongue cut your throat." I think you know where I'm going with this. Let's pretend we're Fredo for a moment. I know, but bear with me here. Let's say we already messed up before the meeting, exactly the way Fredo did. How else could we have salvaged the catastrophe that was about to unfold? Go ahead, what do you think? Exactly. Keep your mouth shut. All Fredo had to do was to keep quiet, especially when things started to heat up. At the very least, he could have stopped talking after seeing Moe Greene insult the Corleone family. Tensions were already high. Moe Greene had just exploded, outright refusing Michael's offer to buy out his casinos, hurling insults and accusations as if daring Michael to retaliate. Michael, as always, remained calm, composed, and calculating. The space was heavy with the weight of rivaling ambitions, every word and glance a strategic move. And then, Fredo spoke.
Cheerleaders.
Wait a minute, Moe. I get an idea. Tom, you're the consigliere. Now you can talk to the Don, you can explain.
Just a minute now.
This little action by Fredo was what really pushed things too far. Everything else could have been brushed aside, but this was a dagger in Michael's back. There are three main reasons why it was a big deal. It was a public undermining of authority. In the world of the Mafia, the Don's word is absolute. By appealing to Tom Hagen, Fredo publicly questioned Michael's decisions, suggesting that he lacked confidence in his leadership. It wasn't just a private disagreement, it was a direct challenge in front of Moe Greene, a man who was already testing Michael's power. Betrayal of family unity. For the Corleones, projecting unity is not just tradition, it's survival. Every move they make, especially in front of outsiders, must reinforce the idea that the family operates as one unbreakable unit. Fredo's actions sent the opposite message. This was like handing Moe Greene a loaded gun, the message to the outside world. Fredo's move wasn't just seen by those in the room, its ripples would be felt far beyond. Word of internal discord spreads fast in their world, and Fredo's actions could embolden rivals like Barzini. It gave Moe Greene leverage to push back harder, knowing Michael's authority wasn't ironclad. It made Michael look weak and insecure. For someone like Michael, whose entire strategy revolves around projecting power and control, this moment was a disaster. To have his brother contradict him publicly made Michael look weak, as though he couldn't command loyalty even within his own family. This wasn't just an embarrassment, it was a stain on his reputation as a decisive, commanding leader. Moe Greene wasn't just watching the negotiation, he was analyzing every subtle power shift in the room. By seeing Fredo turn to Hagen, Moe likely interpreted it as a sign that Michael wasn't fully in control of his own family. This would have given Moe the confidence to dig in his heels and push back against Michael's demands. In Cosa Nostra, perception is everything. A Don who cannot command complete loyalty is a Don who is vulnerable. Fredo's actions didn't just make Michael look weak, they painted him as a leader whose own family might undermine him. This was a green light for enemies to start testing those cracks in the Corleone power structure. Now, to anyone paying attention, the implications were obvious. Fredo was divided, unsure, and willing to challenge Michael in a setting where unity was critical. This wasn't just a misstep, it was a public display of disloyalty. And worse, it emboldened Moe Greene. If Michael's own brother wouldn't back him, why should anyone else? What makes this moment even more interesting is Fredo's intent. He wasn't trying to betray Michael, not outright, but in his desperation to manage the situation and smooth things over, Fredo inadvertently exposed a crack in the Corleone's family armor. Some of that hidden resentment he felt towards Michael for being stepped over. And that crack was enough to set the wheels of chaos in motion. Fredo didn't just weaken Michael's authority, he put the family's reputation on the line. Fredo wasn't thinking about the family at all. His decisions in that meeting weren't about loyalty or strategy. They were driven by his own insecurities and desperate need to prove himself. Instead of focusing on what was best for the family, he let his personal grievances and misplaced loyalty to Moe cloud his judgment. Michael was playing chess, thinking 10 steps ahead for the family's survival. And Fredo, well, he was playing Uno or something, I don't know. He was just completely oblivious to the bigger picture. And so now let's look at things from Michael's perspective. So what was the real play behind all this? Why would he make Greene an offer in such an insulting way? It's subtle but potent enough to trigger Moe Greene. What was he actually thinking? There are two main elements to this. The first was the fact that the hotels were actually losing money, and as we'll get into it, it does seem Greene was skimming off the top. This matters because the Corleone family were one of the biggest investors in the hotel, and so he was practically stealing from them right under their noses. Something you never do. But also, it makes the family look even weaker, and that's something that will be recurring as we go through this. Michael wanted to go all in on Vegas. It was to become the family's new stronghold and primary business. He was also buying up 3 other casinos on the Strip. Now, the second element to this is much more emotional and maybe even ego-driven. As you saw, Moe had no qualms disrespecting Fredo in front of everyone. Think about it. Moe openly straightens out his boss's son, Michael's older brother, all the while knowing the fact that he is the son of a ruthless mob don who is also technically his boss. Add to the fact that Michael wanted to reassert the family's reputation and position of power, this made things very personal. And Moe wasn't backing down either. He knew he was in the wrong, but still was unfazed by the fact Fredo was meant to be under his wing, not some kid he could go slap around when he does something wrong. Even though Fredo was in the wrong, you don't slap around the Godfather's son. Because it gets a lot deeper, it signifies the family is no longer feared, and fear is the tool that keeps their enemies at bay. Losing that aura further shows that the Corleone family is decaying, no longer holding that position of might, and now can be trampled on. It also directly affects Michael specifically. Since he's now the one in charge, people will think he is a pushover. What can this kid do about it? But let's get back to why Michael conducted himself the way he did. Why make his offer in such a disrespectful way? Now, could Michael have just been cold because he was pissed off at how Greene disrespected Fredo? Sure, but here's where Moe had sealed his fate. One of the most powerful laws of power in a business setting is Law 4, which states, "Always say less than necessary." Powerful people know how to impress others by saying less. The more you say, the more likely it is that you will end up saying something foolish. As people are constantly trying to work out what others appear to be thinking, silence makes them feel uncomfortable. I think you know where I'm going with this. When Michael managed to get Greene quite furious and emotional, where he then proudly slipped in the fact that he had been in talks with Barzini, the family's archenemy, this was a deadly mistake. But why, someone might ask? Well, it's because it reveals 2 vital things. The first being the fact that it confirmed Michael's suspicion that Moe had been stealing from the hotel, but more surprisingly, it revealed Moe had been caught out by someone. So when Barzini, who was likely to be another investor, got hold of this, it seems they both struck a deal as he describes. This also hints to the fact that Barzini was also plotting to take the family out of Vegas. But now I want to hear your opinion on this. Do you think Michael wanted Greene to refuse so that he could justify the fact he could take him out, similar to what Sollozzo did with Vito? Keep this in mind, Moe was a very effective operator and innovator in Vegas, a true pioneer, so the families were quite happy with him as he was a solid operator. So it would make sense that Michael would need something quite convincing to justify taking him out. I honestly do think Michael just needed Moe's confession that he was stealing from the casinos. That would be enough to justify taking him out, very similar to the real-life Bugsy situation. But it goes a bit deeper. Michael was seen as extremely weak and doomed to fail. He knew how outsiders perceived him, and this was extremely dangerous. Not because it hurt his ego, but as we mentioned earlier, in that world, fear is what keeps these people in check. After all, they say there is no honor amongst thieves. And as Machiavelli states, it's much safer to be feared than loved, because love is preserved by the link of obligation, which owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment which never fails. These are criminals after all. Why would anyone care about what the Godfather wanted if they didn't care about the consequences or the punishment it will bring? Only the strong survive. So when a more powerful presence introduces itself like a Barzini and starts dominating the arena, people flock to them, something quite relevant today. So in the end, it was not just about Greene disciplining or straightening out Fredo. Slapping Fredo around was also Greene's way to show that he no longer feared the Godfather. He didn't care about the consequences his actions would have, due to the fact that the Corleone family was not what it once was. This symbolized the severity of the family's current position, and if this goes unpunished, the whole family is in danger. Fear was the only thing stopping their enemies from closing in. Fear of the Godfather was what forced the families to make peace, even if temporary. They saw Vito had come back, and if they could not tame his anger, they would all suffer an excruciating punishment. I think there was a sliver of a chance that if Moe took the deal, he would have survived, even if he had been stealing, that Michael could probably forgive. But the fact that he was very openly disrespecting the Corleone family and would not back down, combined with the fact that he was already making deals with Barzini, well, that was not something a new Godfather was going to forgive. He needed to make an example of him. Michael's transformation. This was the first time we see Michael truly owning his new role, but outside the family. The first time he was truly tested. We start really noticing that menacing look, those eyes full of pain and anger that were now imprinted on his face, yet he still tries to keep it all together. He now has a new life purpose, one goal that he believes could quench all the trauma and suffering he went through: revenge. Any reminisce of the old Michael died back in Sicily. At this point, Michael knew Greene had signed his own death warrant, and it was only a matter of time until he got what he wanted. Consequences of defiance. Never insult the wrong person, for their power and influence may far exceed your own. Choose your battles wisely and approach others with respect, for you never know who holds the keys to your success. We've got a video that dives deep into the genius behind Michael Corleone's ruthless strategy, a step-by-step breakdown of how he played the long game and wiped out every one of his enemies with such precision. This isn't just about power, it's about how Michael turned every move into a calculated, silent strike. We break down how he methodically wiped out enemies, allies, and anyone who didn't fall in line, turning weakness into opportunity and using the family's enemies as stepping stones. Trust me, you're going to want to see how Michael turned cold calculation into complete domination. Moe Greene's fate in the novel. But something that we will uncover, and something I found quite interesting, was how Moe was taken out in the novel. It's something most people don't know, and even for those of us who have read the novel, it somehow slips through the cracks. It's one of those details hidden in plain sight, overshadowed by the bigger moments, the iconic scenes. But when you catch it, you really stop and see it for what it is. You see, in the novel, Moe Greene's death is classic Michael Corleone, cold, calculated, and executed with precision so sharp you almost miss it. There's no shootout, no dramatic final words, none of the noise you'd expect. 2 days after Nino Valenti's funeral, Moe is taken out in the Hollywood home of his movie star mistress. Quiet, clean, efficient, exactly how Michael likes it. A single gunshot cut through the luxury, shattering the illusion of Moe's invincibility. Greene's body hits the floor, and with it, the last shred of resistance to Michael's Vegas takeover. And the man behind it? Michael's trusted, Albert Neri. Neri doesn't stick around to bask in the chaos. He vanishes on vacation in the Caribbean. For nearly a month, he's off the grid, leaving the trail cold. By the time he strolls back into New York, tanned and unbothered, the heat's already long gone. Michael welcomes him back with a smile and a reward, a prime East Side bookmaking operation, a lucrative slice of the family's income. Which is interesting because Moe Greene's death, while it tightened Michael's grip on Vegas, also sent ripples through the underworld. It was a signal. Barzini saw it, caught a glimpse of Michael's devious intentions, and yet he didn't see himself in the crosshairs. That's the genius of Michael Corleone. He doesn't just eliminate enemies, he makes them feel invincible right up until the moment he pulls the trigger. Barzini might have respected it, heck maybe even admired it, but showed him that the Corleone family still had a little fight in them. But what he didn't realize was that the same playbook was being written for him. He saw Moe as a problem solved, not a preview of his own fate. That's where he got it wrong. Michael let Barzini feel safe, let him believe his alliances, his reputation, and his position made him untouchable. But in Michael's world, that false sense of security is the most dangerous thing of all. Moe Greene was the opening move, the subtle warning shot Barzini ignored, and by the time he figured it out, checkmate. Moe's death wasn't just a power move, it was the calm before the storm, and Barzini never saw it coming. Maybe it was Barzini's arrogance, or maybe he thought Moe Greene had it coming after word spread about how he treated Fredo. Everyone knew Greene was a dead man walking. Michael didn't even need to spell it out. Moe had crossed too many lines, and his time was up. But here's the kicker. Couldn't that have been the moment for Barzini to take a step back and think, maybe I shouldn't underestimate Michael? He had to know this wasn't the same Michael who sat on the sidelines during Vito's reign, or maybe he thought Michael wouldn't have the guts to come for a man like him, a Don. Moe Greene wasn't just a casualty, he was a case study in what happens when you get too comfortable disrespecting and underestimating Michael Corleone. Michael wasn't settling personal scores, he was consolidating power. By the time he realized it wasn't just business, but strategy, he was already next. But in the film, it was impossible for Barzini to know, as Michael had decided to take out all his enemies in one unprecedented move. The showdown with Moe Greene isn't just a meeting, it's a battlefield, and Michael Corleone plays it like a general following Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Beneath the surface of their exchange lies a masterclass in power, strategy, and calculated dominance. Michael doesn't react to Greene's provocations or match his theatrics. Instead, he plays the long game, methodically dismantling his opponent without ever drawing his sword. The meeting with Moe Greene was more than a negotiation. It's a strategic masterclass, a practical application of the art of war in the world of the Mafia. Michael's ability to stay patient, maintain control, and execute with precision ensures not just survival, but dominance. In the end, Michael doesn't just win the meeting, he wins the war Greene didn't even realize he was fighting. The Art of War by Sun Tzu is a timeless guide to strategy, offering principles that resonate across centuries. Sun Tzu's emphasis on deception and understanding the enemy proved essential. When you start to see the world through Sun Tzu's lens, everything changes. Obstacles become opportunities, and conflicts become games of strategy you can control. It's not about brute strength or luck, it's about understanding the battlefield, knowing your opponents, and mastering yourself. These lessons aren't just history, it's power just waiting for you to wield it. A tool to see the unseen and think 10 steps ahead. What could you achieve with that kind of clarity? You might already know the answer. Now, imagine having a guide that takes these ancient principles and translates them into practical strategies you can use today. What if there was a way to unlock that clarity and gain the upper hand in every situation? The answers are closer than you think. For those who are ready, the roadmap exists. You just have to take the first step. Are you ready to see what's been hiding in plain sight? How this led to war with Roth. The fallout from the Moe Greene conflict didn't just settle the Corleones' business in Vegas, it lit the fuse for a war with Hyman Roth. See, Greene wasn't just some flashy casino operator, he was Roth's guy, handpicked, groomed, and backed as a cornerstone of Roth's empire. Killing Greene wasn't just business, it was personal. The move created a rift that couldn't be patched up. Roth saw Greene's murder as more than a power grab. It was an insult, a betrayal, a challenge to his legacy. And in this world, you don't hit a guy like Roth without expecting him to hit back. That's when the chessboard came out. Roth didn't just go after Michael with guns, he went after him with strategy, manipulation, and assassination attempts. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about sending a message of his own. You don't cross me and walk away clean. This war wasn't just about money. It was about pride, power, and legacy. It was about two titans of the underworld fighting for control, each willing to burn the other to the ground to come out on top. Moe Greene's death wasn't the end of the story. It was the spark that set everything ablaze. And in the Mafia, when things start burning, everyone gets scorched. Fredo's role in the war with Hyman Roth was disastrous. He was the perfect pawn. Roth saw it, clear as day. Fredo's need for validation, his desperation to be taken seriously, and a family that saw him as weak, made him the crack in the Corleone armor. And Roth? Roth was the guy who knew how to take a crack and turn it into a shatter. It started small. Fredo wanted to matter, to show that he could handle business. Roth gave him just enough rope, flattering him, feeding his ego, and making him feel like he was finally in the big leagues. Fredo didn't realize that he was being played, didn't see that Roth was using him to get closer to Michael's inner circle. And when Michael took out Moe Greene, Fredo's hesitation, his defense of Greene, made him a walking red flag. Roth saw that divide and leaned in hard. By the time things boiled over, Fredo was no longer just the harmless brother who couldn't hold his own. He became part of Roth's game. He didn't see the strings Roth was pulling, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that he'd let himself become a liability, a weapon Roth could use against his own blood. Fredo's betrayal wasn't about malice, it was about weakness. And in the Mafia, weakness is as dangerous as a loaded gun. Roth didn't just exploit Fredo, he turned him into proof that the biggest threats to power aren't always the enemies outside. Sometimes they're sitting at the family table, holding a glass of wine and calling you kid brother. As you know, in the end, the new Godfather checkmated all his enemies at once. But this would only be the first of many times where Michael would use brutal force to wipe out his enemies, anyone who stood in his way, no matter who it was. This scene is really where we truly see what this new Michael is going to be like.
Do you renounce Satan?
I do renounce him.
I don't know about you, but this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire trilogy. From the acting to the dialogue, cinematography, all of it was simply incredible. On the surface, it's quite simple and easy to understand, but at the same time, if you look a little closer, you find so many hidden gems. And as promised, we never leave you without some real-life lessons that will give you a massive advantage in life. Listen closely. This should just be between us. Lessons.
Spend my life trying not to be careless.
Off the bat, the biggest and most important lesson you can learn from not just this scene, but the Godfather trilogy is the importance of emotional control. Being able to control yourself to the point where you can't be manipulated and triggered into losing your focus. You never see Don Vito or Michael losing their cool, especially in front of outsiders. They're not afraid of raising their voice or matching the other person's energy, yet do it in a controlled manner. Which reminds me of something profound that was said by the ancient philosopher Epictetus. Have a listen to this. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him. As we hinted earlier to this, it's clear Michael wanted to trigger an emotional response from Greene, making him lose his cool and start exposing his real intentions. In negotiations, emotions can be your worst enemy. If you let emotions cloud your judgment, you jeopardize your chances of success, but can also risk losing what you already have. We can literally spend hours talking, just listing the reasons why this is so vital, but here's what I want you to keep in mind. When we lose our temper, we start to make irrational decisions, damage relationships, and create an adversarial atmosphere. If you lose your focus and become emotional, you are then blind and susceptible to manipulation. But to put it as plainly as possible, never allow yourself to be led solely through your emotions. Stay composed, keep a level head, and make rational decisions based on facts and interests. Now, this lesson is actually a law of power that we'll have a full video dedicated to, so be on the lookout for that. It's Law 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. This law emphasizes the importance of understanding the power dynamics and potential consequences of disrespecting or underestimating others. It warns against provoking or insulting individuals who may have more power, influence, or resources than you, as it could result in severe backlash or retaliation. The law advises careful consideration and strategic decision-making in one's interactions to avoid unnecessary conflicts and negative outcomes. But the lesson I want you to focus on is this. Never humiliate or disrespect someone publicly. This is something that cannot be stressed enough, even if you think it's just a joke or not a big deal. To put it simply, the person you do it to will not forget it. Keep your criticism private, one-on-one, and do it in a productive way. It could be the exact same criticism, yet if you do it publicly, the sting of being criticized in front of others is quite difficult to forget. Now, on the flip side, there's quite a lot we can learn from Moe Greene. Well, at least learn what to avoid. He was quite brash and unwavering, letting his ego blind him from seeing that he was falling for Michael's trap. So that's why I want you to start looking at things from a strategic point of view. Ask yourself, why did he say that? What does he mean by that? Is he trying to force me to say X? Try to look a bit deeper than what the other side is saying. Trying to go through things from their point of view, maybe playing along, is the right move. Which also ties in with the fact that you should go in with some knowledge of what the other side is thinking. We'll get into that a bit more in a second. But here's what Moe should have done. He should have asked himself, where was Michael getting all this confidence from? On one hand, Michael could have just been bluffing, and so Moe didn't really care. Actually, when you think about it, Moe did go in somewhat prepared. He mentioned how the Corleone family was being chased out of New York, and that the Godfather was sick and all of that. So, to be fair, he did his homework. But Michael did a good job hiding moves, as Hagen mentions in the scene earlier. Michael was building a secret regime with some absolute killers that almost no one was supposed to know about, which is significant because in Cosa Nostra, there is supposed to be a capped number of made men in each family. Therefore, Michael had created a thick smokescreen that no one could have seen through. If Moe just did a bit more digging and was not reckless, things might have ended a bit better for him. In the end, though, Greene still handled this like an amateur. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, but if Moe was strategic, he could have flipped the game on Michael, played along, and seen what he was scheming. Which ties back to the main lesson of mastering your mind and emotions, not allowing manipulation to break into your mind and take control. Hence the importance of stoicism. There is still so much I want to share with you but can't. If you enjoy and benefit from these types of videos, comment below and I'll release another 5 lessons. But until then, if you want more of this raw, no-nonsense practical lessons, join the email list because we might have something huge coming.